Hello and welcome to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi dated 17th March 2026. We have taken up important news from The Hindu and Indian Express newspaper and have segregated our discussion into two parts, that is analysis and prelim pointer. The first topic in analysis section is the debate around the right of self-perceived gender identity among transgenders. Now, Ministry of Social Justice has recently brought in an amendment bill regarding the protection of the transgenders. Now, activists allege that the provision of this bill will take away the right of self-perceived gender identity. So, in this discussion, we will be covering aspects related to transgenders. Now, the second topic is Tropical Forest Forever Facility launched by Brazil at COP30. Now, this is being touted as the next-gen reform in the sustainability of the forestation or the deforestation process, but not without challenges. So in this discussion, we will be covering aspects related to TFFF and its challenges. Topic for prelims pointer are listed here, which will cover important information which are relevant from the perspective from the prelims examination. So stay tuned. The first discussion is based on this news article which talks about the right of self-perceived gender identity among transgenders. Now recently Ministry of Social Justice has presented the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Amendment Bill 2026, which aims to amend the provisions related to Transgender Persons Protection of Right Act of 2019. Now various activists and member of transgender community are alleging that provisions of this amendment bill are there or are aimed to take away this right of self-perceived gender identity. Now, what is this self-perceived gender identity? As the name suggests, it is not the gender identity that has been bestowed upon someone based on medical examination or by birth, but it is the gender identity which is self-perceived. So what you think about yourself will decide your gender. So activists are alleging that this amendment bill is going to take away that right, and this has led to protest within the transgender community as well as some activist group also. They are calling for government to withdraw the bill and protect the right to self-perceived gender identity. Important from the perspective of GS paper 2 social justice, mechanism laws constituted for the protection and betterment of the vulnerable section. So in this discussion, we will be covering the background behind this amendment bill and this act of 2019. Along with that, we will also look into the challenges which the transgender community is facing, persistently facing, and also we will look into government steps that has been taken and some way forward. So let us begin the discussion. Now first thing, what is the background? So before this landmark judgment of 2014, which we know as Nalsa versus Union of India. So this landmark judgment by Supreme Court in 2014 gave a very long demanded or long fought demand of transgender community, and it was this judgment came due to the hearing about a PIL which was filed against the systematic discrimination, where court held that transgenders should be recognized as third gender and also directed the government that self-identification of gender is a right, plus they have right to dignity, privacy and equality. So basically defining the third gender as well as bringing the community under the prerogative of Article 14, 15, 16 and Article 21. Plus it also gave direction to the central government to give a legal recognition of transgender identity, plus provide ways for affirmative action, that is reservation, and as has been given to the socially and educationally backward community, that is SEBC. And plus also it gave directive to government to ensure that they have equal and inclusive access to healthcare, public facilities, plus government should be working towards awareness and sensitization measures. Based on this remarkable judgment, landmark judgment, Government of India brought in the Transgender Person Protection of Rights Act 2019, where it provided for the prohibition of discrimination in education, employment, healthcare, housing and public services, right to self-perceived gender identity through certification, plus establishment of welfare schemes and programs for social, economic and educational support, protection from abuse, violence and neglect, mandate for inclusive policies across institutions and workplace. But problem is that this self declaration is still not a 100% self declaration, because this certification is dependent on approval from district magistrate. So self determination is not completely self determination as of now. Plus the affirmative policy which was directed by the Supreme Court, this central law is silent upon that affirmative policies, but it has given power to states that if they want, they can bring in such affirmative actions, so which we will cover later, that how several states have flunked this, and only few states have given this reservation, like Tamil Nadu, which has enlisted transgenders as a part of the most backward classes, MBCs. Madhya Pradesh has enlisted them as part of OBCs, that is other backward caste, and Karnataka is the only state which has given 1% horizontal reservation in public and private job. So apart from this, many states have not given any reservation to transgenders. Plus, to an extent that till 2023, if you will name the larger states, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, Punjab, Haryana, Maharashtra and West Bengal were the only state where in the state boards, state education boards, the separate category of transgender was included. Other states simply say that since we have not received any application for this third gender, so we have not included it in our form or admission process. So this is the condition as of now, but yes, this judicial backing, this judicial pronouncement backed by this legal statute gave a huge relief, or you can consider it as a huge step forward towards empowering the transgender, because at least now they are being recognized as a separate group. Now they are their fundamental rights are being recognized, and at least they become part of debate. But still, despite this pronouncement and despite this act, and now we are talking about this act only because amendment bill has been introduced, and activists say that several provisions are there which will take away this right to perceived identity. So since this is a bill, it has not been become an act, so we are not covering those debates. Rather, we will be focusing on, despite these steps, what are the challenges that transgender people face. Now, before that, let us look into the status. So we have the census data of 2011, which pegs their number at around 4.8 lakh. 4.8 lakh transgenders are there as per the census of 2011. Now this number is very low. Experts believe that, and many independent agencies have reported that this number is around 50 to 60 lakh. This underreporting is because of the stigma attached. So either individual is deciding not to enroll or not to register as a transgender, or their family is just circumventing this process and not reporting that someone is transgender in their family. So this is a case of underreporting, because several independent assessment have pegged their number at around 50 to 60 lakh. But see the empowerment, see their condition, that out of this 4.8 lakh, only 30,000 are registered as a voter. Only 30,000 out of this 4.8 lakh. Now, again, this act of 2019 is important because this gives a legal definition which says that A person whose gender does not match with gender assigned to that person at birth. Not matches, that means their perceived identity is not matching their gender, which includes trans men, trans women, and person with intersex variation, genderqueer, and person having such socio-cultural identities as Kinnar, Hijra, Aravani, or Jogta. Apart from this disparity or discrepancy in number, there is another remarkable finding, and which just looking at this data you will understand the level of marginalization or level of rejection that they face. If you will see this population of 4.8 lakh, only 2% are living with their parents, while 5% are living alone, somewhere hiding their identity, while the major portion, that is 53%, is living in the Guru Chela system, that means the teacher disciple system, while 40% are living as a group. That means they are rejected, marginalized, and completely ignored, and that is why only 2% are able to live with their family. Now, just a glimpse of what kind of marginalization they face. We have read about the women issues, how they are marginalized, how they are ignored. Just imagine the level of ignorance that transgender face. They are not accepted by their family, leave alone the discrimination and all kind of violence and abuses. Most of them are rejected completely. So the first challenge is social exclusion and stigma, which is associated with transgenders, and the prejudices which are attached to them. They make them marginalized, ignored, and many a times they are thrown out of their households, or they themselves choose to leave their household. Now, National Human Rights Commission itself says that 99% of them face some or the other kind of social rejection, 99%. While this rejection, marginalization, this bullying, this violence, this harassment, it has a huge impact on their mental health, to an extent that out of 100, 31 people, 31 transgenders, they try to attempt suicide, and 50% of this number comes before the age of 20. So out of this 31 person, like 100 out of 100, 31 are attempting suicide. Out of this 31, more than 15 people are attempting suicide before they reach age of 20. That is the level of rejection. They feel alienated, they feel like of no value to the society, because they are being harassed, and mental harassment takes the top toll. As you can see here, this is NHRC data, that emotional violence topped the list, followed by physical violence and sexual violence. And 30 to 50% of transgender people experience violence at some point or the other. And 4 out of 10 transgender people face sexual abuse before they turn 18. Before they turn 18, 40% of them have faced some or other kind of the sexual abuse. Now this takes a toll on their mental health, plus this also takes a toll on their educational achievement. As you can see that their literacy rate is 56%, way below the 75-76% of the national average, 20% less than the national average. Plus, even if those who are going to school, because if you can see here, 50 to 60% of transgender have never attended a school, and those who do, they face discrimination. It is not just about discrimination, but it is also about the harassment. So out of those who are attending the school, around 52% are facing harassment from the peers, the class fellows, senior, juniors, and 15% are being harassed by the teachers themselves. So resulting into high dropout rate. Now just imagine, you are marginalized, you are low on confidence, you have no avenue, whatever avenue was left was education, now education is also gone. what it will lead to? The societal norm is that there is an stigma, there is a bias, so nobody is going to hire you first. Even if somebody tries to hire you, because you have no skill set, no education, you are a dropout, not attending school, facing harassment, getting bullied, so nobody wants to hire you. Even if someone wants to hire, then you are not equipped with the skill. If you have been lucky enough or brave enough to cross these barriers, you are getting a job, then you are facing discrimination, sexual violence and harassment there. As you can see here, 92% they directly face the economic exclusion. You are out from the formal economy. This is the statement by National Human Rights Commission. Plus, ILO 2022 says that 48% face unemployment. Out of those who are getting a job or getting into some kind of work, 96% are forced into informal or undignified work, which includes begging and sex worker also. Now, social stigma, education, then comes the healthcare barriers. Now 27% are denied healthcare due to various reason. Basically, it is related to their gender identity. So either practitioners will refuse to treat them, either there is no separate department which will discourage them to go and meet the medical professionals, either they are not sensitized, the medical professionals are not sensitized, so in a way or the other they will act or react in a manner which will be denigrating for an individual, and in future they will not be availing the facilities. Next is the gender affirming surgery, which cost around 2 to 5 lakh. Now for most of the middle class students or youngsters, this amount is not that big, but think about a person who has been marginalized, who has been ignored, who has been rejected by their family also, have no economic avenue. What are the chances that they can have this 2 to 5 lakh of money or amount to have their gender affirming surgery? Now if you want to see the data, 57% transgenders have desired to get a sex realignment surgery, but they cannot afford it. Out of 100, 57 cannot afford it. Further, next challenge is data deficiency. You have just seen the census says 4.88 lakh, but independent source pegged their number at 50 to 60 lakh. Now just imagine this discrepancy. Government has this data of 5.8 lakh or 4.8 lakh. Now government is making policies, bringing welfare schemes or planning something based on this data, but data is 12 times higher. How you can expect that an efficient and objective policy can be created, curated or executed? Next comes the implementational gap. As is the case with many sectors, there are laws. As you have seen, many states don't have the separate category in their boards. Many states have not given the reservation any kind of affirmative action. And still, if you will look at the ground realities, weak implementation has resulted into the continued harassment and marginalization, which includes the complex certification process itself, which is again at last it depends on the district magistrate whether certificate will be given or not. And then there is limited awareness about the act itself and the processes itself. Then they face another kind of challenge, that is housing and civic exclusion. Most of the renters or the owners, they don't want their property to be lent to the transgender, and even if they lend it to a transgender, they face frequent summary eviction, which makes them homeless, plus kind of a ghettoization. They are forced to live in ghettos. So they are living in their close community in an area which is mostly unhygienic. It lacks sanitization and security also, because their localities is clearly identified to whom, to the people who are not having good intention toward this community. Plus the violence and police harassment. Now, a Human Rights Commission and several other records like NCRB have highlighted that is still the police force which is entrusted to implement these laws is not sanitized. The entire force is not sensitized, and many a times the gender based violence is also witnessed at the police stations and in custody. Moving further, the last thing is, in this age of digital era, when we talk about AI, we talk about digital, and in any aspect we talk about the digital intervention. Lack of education, lack of economic avenues, lack of social acceptance, this culminates into their poor performance in digital education and digital awareness. Now, just imagine when government and every apparatus, administrative and governance apparatus is moving to a digital platform to provide you services, you are not aware about that particular platform or those particular services. Definitely, it will result into further exclusion from the schemes like direct benefit transfer or other welfare platforms. So these were the challenges related to transgender community. But what government is doing, as we have seen, the act itself government has brought in, then the rules for the implementation framework. Then a smile scheme is an umbrella scheme which is focusing on livelihood and rehabilitation, one of the most important scheme. Then Garima Grah, which is again housing a social security scheme. Then there is a national portal for transgender person, and there is an statutory body under the Act of 2019, that is National Council for Transgender Persons. These initiatives are taken by the Ministry of Social Justice, but yet things are moving in a positive direction, in a forward direction, but at a slower pace. So what could be the possible way forward? First is strengthening the legal framework. So strict implementation is required, and identity certification should be made easier so that it should move closer to self-identification principle. By naming it self-identification, it is not sufficient. That is, still you are dependent on certain government official. It should be self-identification in all true sense. Then comes the education system, which includes the gender sensitization of the curriculum itself. You should be taught in the class. Then anti-bullying enforcement, which should be strict, and strict punishment should be given, because if you know, the anti-ragging enforcement have been in place, and nowadays you will hear quite not completely zero news, but at least what it used to be, the ragging, it has reduced, the amount has reduced, the you can say the extent has reduced. So in a similar fashion, anti-bullying enforcement should also be taken care of. Plus, inclusive classrooms should be maintained by training the teachers itself, because NHRC says that 15% are being harassed by teachers themselves. Now, economic empowerment is very important, which should be implemented through diversifying the hiring norms both in public and private sector. You should be making something mandatory. Plus, the skill development and entrepreneurship support should be there. Then reservation clarity should be there. It should not be left open for the state. As we have seen, not many states have taken the initiative. Lastly, the healthcare should be accessible and gender sensitive, and health professionals should be well trained and sensitized. Most importantly, the insurance should cover the gender affirming procedures, and it should start with the Ayushman Bharat itself, and dedicated transgender health clinic should be maintained. Then come the public spaces should be gender neutral. The toilet, hostels and prisons, you should be creating gender neutral public facilities. Safe housing and anti-discrimination enforcement should be there. So summary eviction, forced eviction should not be there. The nationwide IEC campaigns to reduce stigma, plus the media representation should be positive. Plus, You should be engaging community leaders and civil society role models so that the perception should gradually change. It is not an overnight job. Then the most important thing is institutional and data reform. We need to have correct real-time data so that we can have correct policies, and this should be made through improved data collection, and the policy making should be data driven. It should not be just based on that something has been done 10 or 15 years earlier and we are focusing the 2026 policy based on the census of 2011. Lastly, the capacity building of institution, which should include police, judiciary, and zero tolerance for harassment should be implemented. Based on this discussion, this is your practice question, that is, inclusion of transgender persons requires more than legal safeguard. It demands societal transformation. Analyze the statement with some policy suggestions. The second discussion is based on Tropical Forest Forever facility. Now the article reads as Belem as a test of new model of forest finance. Now what is it? This TFFF was launched by Brazil at Belem conference COP30. Now this is being touted as a new model for preserving the forest, basically the tropical forest, but it has brought many changes. However, concern they persist over equity, governance, and whether it truly addresses structural drivers of deforestation. So important from the perspective of GS paper 3, that is environment conservation, and we will be taking up the aspects related to TFFF, that what it is and how what is the significance, how it is important, why there was a need for this new mechanism, what are the challenges and what are the way forward. So let us begin the discussion. The first thing, the Tropical Forest Forever facility, that is TFFF. Now as I told you, it was introduced by Brazil, launched by Brazil, but inception of this idea was brought in 2023 itself in COP28, which was held in United Arab Emirates. Now the main focus is to support the tropical forest conservation over long term. Now how it is a change from previous initiatives? One thing is previous initiative, they focused on deforestation, that countries have to arrest the deforestation, they have to stop deforestation. This mechanism is going to reward the preserved forest. Now understand this with one simple example. One country A, which had a history of deforestation, now this country has employed various mechanisms to stop the deforestation. So earlier mechanisms were rewarding this country, that earlier you had deforestation, now you are stopping it, take some money and do it even better. But there are countries which have never let deforestation happen, or they have arrested deforestation, they have preserved their forest, but they were never rewarded because they are not stopping deforestation, they are preserving what they have. Now this mechanism is rewarding those countries. Second thing, this initiative will reward, like it aims to reward the indigenous community also, which is at the forefront of preserving these forests. Thirdly, this initiative is going to apply a market driven mechanism. We will understand this one by one. So this has a blended finance structure. Blended means both public and private sector will be contributing the money. The corpus is, the aimed corpus is $125 billion. Now out of this $125 billion, 20% will come from sponsors. Who are sponsors? By the definition of World Bank, the high income countries or philanthropists will be contributing 20% of this, that is 25 billion will come from countries and philanthropists. So they are called sponsors. Second are the market investors. Who are they? They are private player like institutional investors, sovereign wealth fund, endowment. They will account 80% of the total corpus. And how it will work? This corpus will be managed by a multilateral development bank. In this case, World Bank will be managing. So what will happen? This corpus will come. World Bank will invest this money into bond and securities. Whatever earning will come from that bond and investment, this earning will be distributed among investors plus some amount which is as of now $4 per hectare. $4 per hectare has been fixed for countries which are preserving forest. So if you have 10 hectare, you have $40. Rest profit will be shared with the investor. So this is what it is, the blended finance structure, applying the market strategies. So earlier what used to happen, a country will pledge some money and will give some money to another country. But now this will incentivize even institutional investors. This will incentivize sovereign wealth funds also, that come invest with us, we will give you profit plus one portion of profit will be given to the conservation of forest. This is what the Tropical Forest Forever facility. Now what is the significance, why it was needed? So first, what is the scope of it? Needed we will see later. First thing, that earlier it was avoid deforestation, but now this is rewarding preservation. So earlier those who were preserving the forest were not given any incentive, only those who were arresting deforestation were given the incentive. Now those who are preserving it will also get the incentive. Plus it has also recognized the ecosystem services value, and that is how the rate has been decided, the $4 per hectare as of now. So it is recognizing the services that forest provide, that carbon sequestration, biodiversity, rainfall. So they are recognizing that every hectare gives a $4 service. So if you are preserving 1 hectare, you are getting $4. Second thing, it will be these tropical forests are major carbon sink and they are essential for achieving the Paris Agreement. Now recently what was happening, recently just see this data, the tropical rainforest, the disappearance of this forest, the annual data is around 3.7 million hectare. So for your answers you can simply learn that around 4 million hectare of tropical rainforest are being wiped off every year, and that is why it was required. And that is why it was required because most of these forests were being removed, or this deforestation was happening because of the economic activity, and that is why this holds significance that okay, economy was the concern, we are paying you, just stop the unplanned economic expansion and avoid degrading the forest. Now another significance is first time the indigenous communities are being included. So as we know that 20% of the fund will be earmarked for indigenous communities, and it will acknowledge their primary their role as primary stewards, the frontline people who are saving these forests. Lastly, the innovative model, a finance model, because this would not be simple aid that I am rich country, you are poor country, take money, do something, but it is based on performance. Preservation is there, take money. Then every why deforestation or any degradation in environment happened because of economic activity. So it is first time aligning the economic activity with conservation. So they are investing your money to gain profit, they are giving you profit, but also earmarking some amount for preservation. So they are blending market logic with conservation goal, and that is why this new initiative is important. Moving further, what was the need? As we have seen, around 4 million hectare is being removed. You can see here with this data from 2002 to 2023, especially if you will see post 2013, every year average loss of forest is more than 3 million hectare, which peaked in the year 2016, which peaked more than 6 million hectare were lost, and it is still, if you will see 2023 data, it nearly 4 million hectare we lose every year. And that is why there was a need, because older mechanisms were not working properly, the red plus or the forest watch or any other bond challenge. All these initiatives have yes, they have given the result, but not to an extent what was expected, and that is why this initiative is being looked upon as a new mechanism, a very innovative mechanism. So the first reason is the drivers. Why we need it? Because the driver of deforestation is the agribusinesses, mining and infrastructure, and weak governance. That is again the poor implementation. These were the drivers of the deforestation. इसीलिए we have seen the deforestation anywhere in the world. Either it is mining activity, either it is infrastructural development, either it is expansion of agriculture, or weak governance is there. So this is going to address at least two part of it, that yes, business, you are earning money, we are giving you money, don't expand haphazardly. Secondly, traditional method failed because they were donor driven. So a country who is giving you money will put in some conditions also, arm twisting also, you have to abide by their conditions. Then it was a top down approach, indigenous community was completely gone from the equation of discussion and planning. Then accountability was poorly managed. So there was no data, no record whether money reached, who got the money, what amount money they got, what was the outcome, what was the result. It was never practical and never close to the ground realities. Then the climate justice imperative, that is also why it was needed, because forest communities, they, if you will consider their contribution to climate change, is minimum, it is near zero, because they have been living in these ecosystems since ages and they are not destroying this, but they are at the forefront of the bearing the cost. So this is the first time you are recognizing their need and their contribution. That is why also it was needed, because earlier program they were least bothered about the indigenous community. Then as you can see the pace of the loss of the forest, you can understand that Amazon forest, the pace at which they are being lost, the term is being used, the savanization risk, that is they will turn into savanna, that is a grassland someday, because with this space they cannot survive more. And once the Amazon forest are reduced to a grassland, just imagine what will happen to the global community. And that is why it was needed, and correctly it was brought in by a country which is part of Amazon basin, that is Brazil. Now it is not that there are not issues with this particular program also. So the issue is, first issue is power imbalance. Now according to article itself, during discussion phase you have included indigenous community, during planning phase you have included the local community, indigenous community, but voting has not been given in the governance body. So that is more of a tokenization, a tokenistic approach is there, that okay, for the namesake you are involved. Now when it comes to decision making, the power clutch would be there, you will be ousted. Then the market-based approach concern. Now, NGO and groups like Global Forest Coalition, that is GFC, they raise concern that you are mitigating an economic activity by giving an alternative of economic activity only. So again they are saying that more focus would be investment, getting profit, distributing the profit. What about the structural issues which are causing deforestation, that is mining, agribusiness, oil, infrastructure? What about them? You will end up paying more focus on profitability and distribution of money rather than focusing on causes. Then $4 per hectare. Now I have reiterated this data again and again. Now experts say this is a very meager amount and there is no scientific basis that can decide that a hectare of forest is contributing $4 only. So this is undervaluation of the ecosystem service. Plus this money ultimately will come to the government. So experts believe that this money will be absorbed by the government or intermediaries like NGOs. It will rarely reach to the indigenous people because there is weak accountability mechanism. Now Brazil has brought in a portal which will give you a real time data about your eligibility or at which stage the approval is, all those things. But how much money was brought in, where it was distributed, how it was distributed, what was the outcome, there is no mechanism to take. So the same problem, the accounting mechanism was poor, it is still poor. So again the concern, plus comes the land right issue. Now most of the land are being owned by the government or the corporate. Now indigenous community, they say that first give the secure land tenure, then only we can ask this is our land, give us money. Otherwise government will say this is my land, give me money, I will distribute, I will see to it what I have to do with this. And this will create a problem. This will create a problem. And just in the previous slide we have seen that how Amazon forests are being cleaned up. So here you can see same data around in 2016 it peaked, crossed 5 lakh million 5 million hectare, while consistently up and above 3 million hectare mark. Every year it is being removed, and this is happening when global community is so called concerned with deforestation and putting every effort to arrest this. When they are putting effort, they are ending up clearing 3 million hectare. Don't know what will happen when they will fail. So what is the way ahead? First thing first, the community centric governance. So decision making power should be with the local people. Voting rights should be given. Then the land tenure should be secured so that the benefit should reach to the people. Then financial design, that is payment rate, DBT should be instituted so that correct valuation should be done and that valuation should reach to the designated people. Then structural drivers should be addressed like agribusiness, extractive industries, because these are the structural drivers which are causing deforestation. You cannot ignore them just by saying we are aligning this with market mechanism. Again, you are you are kind of blocking one market mechanism and opening up another. Rather you should be focusing on the structural drivers. Then the accountability framework should be there, where the money went, who got it, what are the outcome, all these things should be real time, and robust accountability framework should be maintained. In this, capacity building and technology by using the platforms of UNDP and FAO for technical assistance and data transparency should be maintained. In the end, author says this is a promising initiative moving away from previous methodologies, but it will depend how it is being implemented and is it really focusing upon removing the earlier barriers or not. Based on this, this is your practice question, that is market-based climate finance mechanisms may not address the structural causes of deforestation. Examine in the context of the tropical forest forever facility. A 15 marker 250 word question, try to attempt it. Now the first topic in prelims pointer is related to this news article where Israel has warned that displaced Lebanese driven from their homes by its military, that is Israeli military, would not be able to return until the safety of Israelis living near the border was ensured. Now this is important from the perspective of map location. So we will be covering the important locations related to Levant region. So what is Levant? Levant is originated from a French word, that is lever, which roughly means east. So if you will look from the perspective of Mediterranean countries, this region is east to them. The Levant means the sunrise, land of sunrise, that is eastern side, and this region which encompasses some part of Sinai Peninsula, Jordan, Syria, Israel, Lebanon are part of this Levant region. In the subsequent map, you can see that Syria, Jordan, Israel, Lebanon and Cyprus along with some part of the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt also be considered as part of Levant. Important from examination perspective, the Mediterranean Sea and the bordering countries, that is Syria, Lebanon, Israel and some part of Egypt through the, if you will see the Levant region through the Sinai Peninsula. Now, Jordan is a country which has no access to the Mediterranean Sea. We will see it has access to Red Sea through the Gulf of Aqaba. Further, if you will see the Israel and the neighboring countries from north to south, you will find various important places which are consistently in news. Now, the place in news here is Lebanon, which is at the northern border of Israel. Adjacent to that on eastern side is Golan Height, which internationally is considered as part of Syria but has been occupied or being practically controlled by Israel since 1967, the Golan Heights. Apart from Golan Heights, if you will move south, you have Sea of Galilee. Now, Sea of Galilee is lowest freshwater lake on earth, around 200-meter below the ground level. Moving further south, you have West Bank. West, why? Because western side of the Jordan River it is. And again, a Palestinian territory, but practically controlled by the Israelis, and since 1967, larger part, and followed by the West Bank. The southern part you will find the Dead Sea, that is hypersaline lake, salinity around 34 part per million, one of the lowest point on the earth, around 300-400 meter below the ground level. South of which you have this Negev desert bordering Jordan and Egypt, which is again important, the Sinai Peninsula, the part of Egypt. And as we discussed that Jordan has access to Red Sea, so is the access to Israel. So if you can see this part, the yellow highlighted part, this is Gulf of Aqaba, which is bordered by 4 countries: Israel, Jordan, Sinai, Egypt through Sinai and Saudi Arabia. Though Saudi Arabia and Egypt has its access to Mediterranean Sea as well as Red Sea, but Saudi Arabia is also having direct access to Red Sea, but Jordan and Israel has access to Red Sea through Gulf of Aqaba only. So this is again an important feature. Why we have covered these locations? Because UPSC has been asking question based on these location. This has been asked in the year 2022 about the Levant region, and the question in 2015 talks about the Golan Heights. Try to solve these questions and let us know your answer in the comment box. Moving further, 2017 also they have asked the bordering countries of the Mediterranean Sea, and in 2015 again they have asked bordering countries that a country which does not open out to Mediterranean Sea. Try to solve these two questions also and let us know your your answer in the comment box. Moving further, the second news article is related to a crab species which belong to a species of Vela Carli. This is a small crab species, and basically the most important or crucial part is the single organism is displaying both male and female biological traits. It has been found in Silent Valley National Park. In important from perspective of environment and species in news, let us see some important information. Now this kind of uh, organism, we call them this kind of you can say the characteristic, we call them gynandromorphy, where individual exhibit both male and female characteristic, and this is a freshwater crab belonging to the species of Vela Carli. This is crustacean, and this has been found in the Silent Valley National Park. This is endemic freshwater crab found only in the forest and streams of the central Western Ghat. So this is an important discovery, and why it is more important, because this phenomena of gynandromorphy, that is showing traits of both female and male in single individual, is very rare in crustaceans. So this is again very important from the perspective of examination, and again it has been found in the Silent Valley National Park, which is located in the southwest corner of Nilgiris in southern India in state of Kerala. So if you want to see the map, this is the Silent Valley National Park in the state of Kerala, and it is considered as one of the last undisturbed tract of tropical rainforest in India. It is part of Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, which has been accorded the status of World Heritage Site in 2012, and it is being drained by the Kunti Puja river. Four kind of vegetation you will find: the west coast tropical evergreen forest, the southern subtropical broad-leaved hill forest, montane wet temperate forest, and grasslands you will find here. Important species that you will find here is lion-tailed macaque, Nilgiri langur, Malabar giant squirrel, Indian elephant, tiger, leopard, and gaur. Uh, Try to read about these species and especially their IUCN status and their social traits. So to cover this topic holistically, and Silent Valley National Park is a very important site. It has been in news since long, and previously also UPSC has asked questions based on the Silent Valley National Park. Moving further, the next news article is related to an archaeological finding which is not new. It is Keeladi in the Tamil Nadu. The dispute is also old, where Archaeological Survey of India was busy or was interested with the excavation of Keeladi site, but there was some dispute among the between the ASI and Tamil Nadu State Department of Archaeology, and now finally ASI has granted permission to TNSDA, that is Tamil Nadu State Department Archaeology, for conducting excavation. Important from the perspective of history and places in news. Why Keeladi is important and why the findings are important? The location is in Tamil Nadu, as you know, the Shivganga district, which is 12 kilometers southeast of Madurai and situated along Vaigai river. Uh, the excavation began in 2015, but since then it has been went into administrative dispute between Tamil Nadu agency and the central government agency, and but very important artifacts, more than 18,000 artifacts including pottery, potsherds, ornaments, copper articles, semi-precious stones, shell and ivory bangles, glass beads, spindle whorl, terracotta seals and weaving tools have been found. And there are inscriptions also in Tamil Brahmi inscription have been found, and there is a well-planned urban settlement with evidences of industries such as pottery, weaving, dyeing and bead making has also been found. The As per the excavation and the evidences, like they indicate a trade network, while items such as dice and hopscotch pieces reveal leisure activities. So trade and leisure activities have been found. The most important thing is the Sangam age. So till date, the Sangam age, scientists put the Sangam age between 300 BC till around 400 CE. This will push the date, that is 300 BC. That earlier it was said that Sangam age started at 300 BC. Now this excavation says, it has evidence that Sangam age was way before than the 300 BC. It was around 800 BC when Sangam age started. So this is the most important discovery, that Sangam age did not start at 300 BC, but rather, if the evidences are to be believed, it started 800 BC, and it had proven links with other civilization, that is Indus Valley civilization, and cultural gap is around 1000 years. But scholars are reading that how this connection has been developed. Moving further, the Sahitya Akademi award have been announced, and it has been given to 24 authors in 24 language, and this has been the this award have been announced for the year 2025. Important from the perspective of prelims, that is award in news and literature. So Naute Sarna and Mamta Kalia, Naute Sarna for English, and Hindi writer Mamta Kalia got for Hindi novel. So not that important from the perspective these novel, but few languages you should be knowing, that Hindi, English and some major novels, if they are. Otherwise, just the basic information regarding the Sahitya Akademi award is important. It was formally inaugurated in the year 1954. It is registered as a society under the Societies Registration Act 1860. It is central institution for literary dialogue, publication and promotion in the country, and it is the only institution that undertakes literary activity in 24 Indian languages. So 22 recognized language plus uh, English is also there, and ministry, this is an autonomous organization under the Ministry of Ministry of Culture, headquartered in New Delhi. Uh, it is awarded to most outstanding books of literary merit published in any of the major Indian language. So 22 language enumerated in constitution. Apart from that, English and Rajasthani as language in which it program may be implemented. So 22 language plus English plus Rajasthani, that is 24 languages, 24 awards. The authors and poet receive a copper plaque, a shawl and an amount of 1 lakh in an award. Moving further, a very interesting festival, or the celebration of, you can say, the multicultural mosaic of India, that is Phool waalon ki sair, which literally means procession of the florist, is started in New Delhi. Now this is not the real time or actual time when it gets celebrated or organized. The actual time is October, November. However, due to the dispute arised last year, and no permission was given last year, this time it is being organized and being celebrated in the month of March. Important from the perspective of prelims, that is festival and related to some historical events. That is why we are covering this news. Let us see the basic information related to the Phool waalon ki sair. Now, as the name suggests that it is procession of florist, it is syncretic cultural festival and kind of reflective of communal harmony. So, how communal harmony? Both Hindu and Muslims participate in this festival. it involves parade, it involves dance, it involves music. Apart from that, it involves the floral tribute in shape of pankha, that is floral fan, and chadar, that is floral sheet. In the Yogmaya temple, that is a Hindu shrine, and Khwaja Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki Dargah, who was a Chishti clan Sufi saint, and it is said that most of the Mughal emperors were disciple of Khwaja Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki. So simultaneously, chadar is offered to Bakhtiyar Kaki's dargah, whereas these pankhas are offered to Yogamaya temple. Who instituted this? In 1812, Akbar Shah II, he instituted this, and his son was exiled by British. So his queen, his son name was Mirza Jahangir, he was exiled. So his queen, she vowed that if the son will come safely, will return safely, she will offer a floral chadar and floral this pankha, and basically celebrated in and around Mehrauli area in Delhi. Now the celebration is going bigger and bigger, so the procession takes a longer route, but originally it is in the Mehrauli. Now the historical significance is you can say the another aspect of it, because it is reflective of Hindu Muslim unity. They both offer chadar and pankha in temple as well as dargah. So in colonial period, it was stopped. During 1857, the permissions were denied by British, and in 1942, when Quit India movement was launched, it was completely banned. But Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he revived this again formally in 1962. However, the talks started just immediately after the independence in 50s, early 50s, but formally it was relaunched in 1962, and since then consistently being celebrated and organized by an NGO, that is Anjuman Sair-e-Gul Faroshan, with the support from Delhi government. So here in this picture you can see the pankha, and in a similar fashion the floral chadars are also created to in the which is offered to the Sufi saint Bakhtiyar Kaki's dargah. So that's all for today's session. Stay tuned for more such updates. Thank you.